You're listening to ayahuascapodcast.com.
For me, ayahuasca is a medicine of alignment. So it's going to show you what your deepest alignment is. So if you're creating businesses that don't align with your central purpose, with who you are, then yeah, it will likely show you that in greater detail. There's a lot of ways, obviously, founders are shown that. Many are shown that, and I guess how VCs might prefer they be shown that is in burnout after many years, and then they've kind of burnt out their lives and are struggling. And, I think what ayahuasca offers them is the ability to find that out before we completely burn out and find a path that can lead to greater fulfillment, greater energy. What we've seen on a lot of our journeys, and I think one of the things we really focus on is we understand the people we're working with are, they're high performers. They're looking to continue to create in the world, but it's how do you align that creation? How do you align what you're doing to what you really want in your life?
Hi guys, and welcome to Ayahuasca Podcast. As always, we did the host Sam Believ. Today I'm having an interview with Brendan Evans. Brendan is the CEO, Chief Elevation Officer, and co-founder of One Heart, an organization dedicated to guiding leaders through transformative experiences that foster personal growth and elevate consciousness. Prior to founding One Heart, Brendan achieved significant success in tech industry, building two highly successful tech companies in New York. However, by the age of 36, he found that this conventional success did not bring joy, meaning, and fulfillment he had anticipated. We touch upon topics of Brendan's personal story and how he went from being a tech startup founder to working with plant medicines. We talk about ayahuasca and leadership, ayahuasca and burnout, misconceptions about ayahuasca, parenting, his belief system after working with ayahuasca for a long time, and so much more. Enjoy this episode. This episode is sponsored by Lawira Ayahuasca Retreat. At Lawira, we combine affordability, accessibility, and authenticity. Lawira, connect, heal, grow. Guys, I'm looking forward to hosting you. Brendan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here, Sam.
Brendan, tell us a little bit about your story and how you ended up working with plant medicines, and why did conventional success didn't bring you any joy?
Sure. Yeah, I was living in New York. I had built one company. We had sold that company. Right as we exited the company, I spun off another company, so really didn't have any transition. Kind of been working for close to 20 years. New York style working 60, 80 hours a week, just really grinding it out, built some successful companies. We spun this new company out. I grew it very quickly to about 100 employees, raised a bunch of VC money. And then a few years in, my investors came to me and wanted me to raise more money. And that was really the moment when my heart kind of sank and I realized, I was kind of somewhere different. It was no longer what I felt called to be doing. We were creating technology that supported big companies sell unhealthy, unneeded products, and it just became something that I was no longer aligned to. And as I thought about, approaching 40 and the next, kind of phase of my life, something just really, kind of didn't sit right. And for me, that's really what kicked me off on my path. Around that time, I found ayahuasca. And the first time I heard about it, and I was in a yoga studio in Brooklyn, sitting with the medicine. About a couple weeks later, just resonated with me from the first time I heard of it. And just kind of set me off on my path. And, I ended up, my investors ended up coming to me, asking me several more times to raise the money. And when I refused, eventually they let me go from the company that I had started. Asked me to step down, and that kind of set me on this deeper growth path that included plant medicine, a bunch of other modalities, some coaching certifications, and really a bunch of travel, and really exposed myself to a lot. Went on this personal journey that I really, was too busy to do much in my life. And when I got back, I ended up writing this article called Lost on Purpose, and I posted it on my 40th birthday. And it shared a lot about my story, from being this super motivated type A founder to really looking for a deeper joy, deeper meaning in life. I checked all the boxes, but wasn't really feeling the fulfillment that I'd expected in all the areas of my life. And I posted that on my 40th birthday and ended up going viral and receiving all these messages from people that said, "This is my story. This is my story." And what they really meant by that was a lot of high achievers, a lot of people that had checked a lot of boxes of what society was asking of them and really didn't know where to turn next. And for me, that became kind of the motivation to start One Heart. Just seeing that there are a lot of people out there that can do big things, that want to really create in this world, but really don't know how to apply their talents, their skills into areas of passion, areas that they feel will actually support the world in moving forward. And that's really the mission of One Heart, is to help leaders continue to evolve and themselves, so that what they create in the world has that much deeper meaning and utility.
Thank you for sharing that, Brandon. My story is somewhat similar, even though I was not a founder, but I kind of climbed the career ladder to an extent and got everything that society told me, when I get it, I'll be happy. Happiness never came. So I gave up and started something new. But interesting question. I think I heard about it somewhere that, venture capitalist people, they're really worried about founders drinking ayahuasca because a lot of them quit and stop running that, doing that rat race style thing. Do you work with leaders? So obviously a lot of them have their own company. So are they worried sometimes that maybe they will step off the path? Or what would you tell people that are worried that ayahuasca will change them so much?
Yeah, I think there's a quote by Reid Hoffman that recently that speaks to that, and how ayahuasca, is maybe has some founders step off their path. I mean, the way I always describe it, and I've seen quite the contrary in several respects. I think what I've seen is, for me, ayahuasca is a medicine of alignment. So it's going to show you what your deepest alignment is. So if you're creating businesses that don't align with your central purpose, with who you are, with what you want to be doing on a daily basis, then yeah, it will likely show you that in greater detail. And I think there's a lot of ways, obviously, founders are shown that. Many are shown that, and I guess how VCs might prefer they be shown that is in burnout after many years, and then they've kind of burnt out their lives and are struggling. And I think what ayahuasca offers them is the ability to find that out before we completely burn out, and find a path that can lead to greater fulfillment, greater energy. And what we've seen on a lot of our journeys, I mean, and I think one of the things we really focus on is we understand the people we're working with are, they're high performers. They're looking to continue to create in the world. But it's how do you align that creation? How do you align what you're doing to what you really want in your life? And for some, that might be, we've seen people that are able to replace themselves in their businesses and take time to step away and work on projects or areas of the company that are more fulfilling versus being the nuts and bolts of it. We've seen others that have left corporate America or left a company that they were working with to found or create something new that had deeper alignment with what they're doing. I've seen people pivot their businesses so that they align more and contribute more to the areas that they're most aligned to. So yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're looking at it from a purely capitalistic, controlling perspective, and you want just people to do, what capitalism and money dictates that they do, then ayahuasca could obviously, help people step outside that. But if you're interested in having people reach their highest potential by aligning their desires, their souls, their hearts with the work that they're doing, then this work and I think our program in particular is really well suited to support people in that path.
It's similar to people being afraid that if they work with ayahuasca, their relationship, they might want to dump their boyfriend or girlfriend. And it's the same thing. I tell them that, if you if it's meant to be, it will show you even more. And if it's not, then it's the best thing that can ever happen to you. Why would you want to waste any more time? So you mentioned burnout, and I myself am the founder as well, but I'm the founder in an ayahuasca space, so in an ayahuasca retreat. So I personally, and it's a very difficult business to run. A friend of mine who helps us with marketing, he says it's the most difficult business model he's ever seen. But I drink ayahuasca regularly, so I drink it once a month. And I think that kind of keeps me away from burnout. Sometimes I feel, the symptoms. So can you talk to us about burnout? Because you work with lots of entrepreneurs, and how to spot the burnout and how to fix it. Can ayahuasca help, or maybe is there anything else you'd recommend they do?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest cause of burnout is misalignment. It's not necessarily the hours we're working or any of the day-to-day factors per se, although that can contribute. But I think more than anything, it's when people are doing work that's out of alignment, when they're working with people that they don't want to be around, when they're doing work and tasks that they don't feel optimize their skills or tap into their passions and creativity, when they're working in things that they don't believe in or don't feel are good for the world. And I think that's, that dissonance, that cognitive dissonance is really what creates the deeper burnout. And so, I think ayahuasca very much shows you where you're out of alignment. And that's one of the ways that it supports. I think also, a lot of people coming on our retreats, you see it. We have a 2-week program before preparation, 5 weeks after, and you see people that are struggling to even give themselves, the few hours of time to do some of that work or to step away on a 1-week journey. And when you think about, who owns your life, like if you can't step away, if you can't give yourself some moments to reflect, to go deeper, when work is so controlling that you can't step away for this time, that's also, a big cause of burnout, because you're not feeling like you're in control of your life, and you're not really able to take the time to allow your mind to refresh and take a step back. And I think that's another thing that really happens with our program and with this medicine is it kind of allows you to do that in a very short period of time. It gives you that broader perspective, it allows you to go deeper, allows you to step away, even in a short period of time. And so that's one of the things I've seen that really allows people to be refreshed as well. But I think that, for that to really last, it's really about the integration. And that's why we focus a lot on that. It's taking, you've seen these breakthroughs, you have these insights that come through for you on journey. How do you take that and actually make changes into your life? How do you remove the things that are causing the most dissonance in your life, that are most misaligned, so that, you're not just kind of repeating those patterns and going back into all those areas that cause burnout in the first place.
You mentioned integration. So what are your general recommendations for people that, let's say, just worked with ayahuasca and want to bring most of it back to their day-to-day life?
Yeah, so we have a 5-week program that's virtual post-journey. We think it's really critical. I mean, for thousands of years, this medicine has been done in community. So you would sit with your community, your tribe, life would be an integration. And that's kind of been taken away in much of the modernization of how we do this work. And so, one of the core aspects of our integration is community. So we form very deep relationships, in the pre-journey, on journey, people get extremely close. And so that community really helps support people, as they integrate back into their life, people that have seen them at their highest, people that have seen them be completely vulnerable, who know what they, want to create in their life, supporting them. So that's a huge aspect of it. Our integration program is also focused a lot around kind of helping them codify and take the information that they've received from their highest self, and then really bring that forth in their life. And we do that through a 10-year visioning exercise, through a personal manifesto. And so it's really capturing a lot of the commitments, the promises, the information that will most support them and how they want to live their life moving forward, and help them keep that front and center as they go back into their lives and utilize that as they move forward. Because as you know, we do forget a lot that comes through, and so it's really about how do we really keep that stuff front and center and provide a support network that's going to allow people to to support themselves moving forward. And even post our 5-week program, we have monthly virtual meetup calls. We have local groups in about 14 different markets across the world, including Medellin. And so, yeah, we do a lot to help, our community stay together, connect with each other. So we really feel that that's a huge aspect of it.
Yeah, I do agree. I think community is not only a big part of integration, but also a big part of the healing itself, where we sort of don't have our tribe anymore these days. There's more people than ever, but we're more lonely than ever before. So you mentioned your first ayahuasca experience was at the yoga studio in Brooklyn. Obviously not the most optimal way of doing it. So now, after being more experienced and organizing, ayahuasca retreats yourself, what would you recommend people do or not do when choosing a place?
I mean, obviously, what I feel, what I recommend for people, we really put into our 1-hour program. We really try to create about 80% of the people that join us are first-time ayahuasca drinkers. We have a lot of people that have drinking all over the world as well, but we really create an experience that allows them to get the most from it, with preparation, with all the things we provide on journey, in addition to the ayahuasca that really supports it. We have a lot of different modalities, different workshops, and different things that really, really support them going deeper and integrating. And then the 5-week integration program. Some of the elements that I think I would, call out are, one, a lot of our preparation is around, being comfortable. So as comfortable as you can be with where you're going to sit. So knowing, if you know the practitioners beforehand, that supports. If you have the opportunity to show up somewhere where you already have a comfort level, I think that really allows you to go deeper. Obviously, a deeply trained medicine team. Our medicine teams are have deep dedication to this work, put a lot into their dietas, into their studies, as does our team. Our team at One Heart also, we do our dietas as well, and really, focus a lot on upgrading our skills so we can support others. On journey, I think it's, there's a lot of areas that can be really supportive to people, as far as just, really creating, as we said, the communal effect, integrating stuff together in a group, different modalities. We leverage things like breath work, Temescal, which is a Native American sweat lodge, ice baths, ecstatic dance, cacao ceremonies. We have specific workshops developed around different themes that tend to come up a lot, like surrender and self-love and freedom. And so, really, allowing, I think the balance of bringing the deeply indigenous traditions with some Western, ability to really help people take what they're learning, integrate that into their lives, and know how to utilize that in a better way is really supportive. And then integration, places that support post journey, how can you be supported as you go back into your life, and really using this information that you've received to elevate you in your life. So I think those would be, some of the things that I would focus on.
That's a great list of things. So obviously the Brooklyn studio might not be the most optimal place for ayahuasca, but it did something to you that changed your life or started that journey that led you to where you are now. So can you maybe describe this experience, or how did it unfold? How many ceremonies before you, from you just trying it for the first time to you changing your life in this 180 fashion?
Yeah, it's a good question. And obviously we all have our own paths and we find it in our own ways. And, I joke that after that ceremony, my integration was my Uber got pulled over on the way home and I had to get out and throw my stuff and walk home. So yeah, you can have some imperfect experiences too. For me, it was enough to obviously know that there was something greater there for me in this. For me, that first ceremony was a lot around just oneness and the connection to all that is. And I was, fortunate to just, I didn't really go super deep into my own work at that time, and a lot of personal stuff. It was just that, unquestionable knowing of the connectedness of the world and the divinity of the world that, that I felt, that allowed me to know that there was something greater here to continue to pursue. When I started One Heart, I think I had probably done around 25 ceremonies, at that time, various parts of the world. And it wasn't something where, I'm like, I had some message, I have to do this. I think I really kind of, really understood at that time the responsibility that it holds. I almost canceled the first journey several times, just knowing, what responsibility it held to carry this medicine and to serve others in this way. And so it came with a lot of, deep thought and consideration. And just at the end of the day, really felt like there was a strong pull for creating this type of community with these types of people that could really bring a lot of value. And after doing the first one, especially the second one, it just became obvious, what was there, and that there was something, bigger, working its way through. And obviously, it's, as you mentioned, there's a lot of challenges. It's not an easy business model. It's not easy work to do. There's always kind of things coming up. And, without that strong commitment to why you're doing this work and, why you want to serve in this way, it can be very easy to kind of go off in the wrong way, or create something that ultimately doesn't serve in the way that you maybe first envisioned.
It's I noticed that a lot of people come here to Lowara, for example. It looks kind of easy when it's organized well, so a lot of people get inspired to also start a retreat of some sort. And what would you say to someone who wants to work with the medicine, feels this calling? Any words of wisdom or recommendation?
We'll think about it for a while. I think really try to get hands-on experience. How can you really, understand what it means to hold this work and hold this medicine. I've seen people that, like you mentioned, they see it well run, they see how exciting, how much guests appreciate the work and how beneficial it is, and they're like, oh, I should go off and do this. And yes, there's a business aspect to it and an organizational aspect to it. But when you're working with medicine, I think there's such a greater responsibility that we have. And I don't think people, fully understand that. And I think the only way to fully get that is to spend a lot of time with the medicine. I think the same goes with people serving medicine. Just like, you don't want to go to like 5 ceremonies and call yourself a shaman and start serving. I think it's, it takes really, going and doing lots of dietas, being, spending time, in the Amazon, you're really learning, really putting in the time and sacrifice to be able to do this work right. So I think, trying to put in that same work, before starting, a business or center or something along those lines, is really important. And, sometimes people don't maybe have that same opportunity, but I've seen a lot of people, try and start things and they usually don't go so well. So I think, the more you can really learn, about the space and yourself, and really dedicate yourself to the medicine, the better, the outcome you'll likely have, and, ensure that this is what you're truly committed to.
Yeah, it's definitely much harder than it seems. So as a facilitator myself, I'm curious, what is the most difficult part for you about your work, and then what is the most pleasant and fulfilling part?
Good question. I think the most difficult part is just the level of responsibility that I hold for it, and really feeling truly accountable for every soul, every person that comes through, and wanting to see the best for them. And when there's challenges, and when things come up, for there's parts of our process that that we look to, that we want to up level. It's just it's this continual commitment and almost obsession over how can we really serve everyone at an even better level, and knowing that the price of not doing that is not, it's not revenue for us. It's like, the chance that someone may not have their life shifted in the way that they might have imagined coming in. And, you really want everyone to have that opportunity. It's maybe the only time they sit with the medicine. So I said, just really holding that responsibility and really feeling that is, I would say, is one of the most challenging things. The most rewarding things, kind of goes along the same lines, is seeing the massive transformations and growth that occur. I think with One Heart, it's even better because we're on Facebook, we're on WhatsApp groups with everyone. We see people long-term as well. People connect with each other. So just seeing all the ways that people's lives are changed. From time to time, I get to be an event or see people. I just went on a dieta that had a bunch of One Hearters alumni, and you hear their gratitude in the way that One Heart changed their lives, and it's a really beautiful thing to know that we're a part of, and especially when you dedicate as much time and energy to this work, to really feel that and know that we're making changes in people's lives, and see the changes that they're making in the world. We have a lot of leaders, a lot of people going back into the world, doing some really interesting things. And so to see that butterfly effect is really beautiful.
So you mentioned that obviously you get lots of leaders coming to your events, and they say, fish rots from the head. So it's like starting, kind of addressing the top of the society first, and then hopefully that it trickles down. What are your hopes, for 10 years from now? What can the fact that leaders drink ayahuasca do to their careers, to the people that work with them, and to society at large? What is your bullish scenario prediction?
Yeah, well, I think that, there's a lot of areas where you can see how business is, leading our lives astray in many ways, from our food system to, our pharma system, to just the way that we're caring for people, what we're putting out, how we're supporting people in their lives. There's a lot that is not supporting people and not supporting our children. And so, one hope is that, we really align, and we really don't turn a blind eye to the work that we're putting out in the world, and make sure that, if we're working, for Pepsi or Coke, how are we going to help them create products that don't kill people and don't, poison people. And
Pepsi with ayahuasca flavor.
Yeah, and they used to be big clients of mine, and I think, and I didn't really, think about it in that way at the time. And obviously there's people that enjoy their products and they bring happiness to people. And, there's just a lot that's covered up, a lot of science that's not used, a lot of chemicals that are banned in other countries that we're still using, knowing how bad they are. And so there are things that we have to really own as a society and be in integrity about. These are people's kids. These are, we have, I think, 60% obesity in the US. I mean, these are not acceptable outcomes for people's lives that we all get to take ownership of. It's also just how people are treated at work. So having bosses and having people that, honor them, in their work and don't overwork them and allow them vacation time and maternity time and, treat people as we all want to be treated. I think, our business lives are much of the time that we spend, and they create a lot of, what we're able to provide for our families. They create a lot of, the energy that we're able to come home with, to give to our families. And so, if we really start creating businesses that care about the people working there and ultimately care about the people that they're serving, that's a big area where, we can, really start to shift the world, because capitalism and profits is such a powerful driver in our society now. It's really going to take, leaders with conscience, leaders that want to stand up to the system and say, yes, we know we have to be profitable to survive, and we're going to do that in a way that, is not, significantly damaging our people and our employees. So I think, it's really just being a good human. And if our leaders are good humans, in business, and they really take the time to think about the implications of the work that they're doing, the world could shift very quickly.
Yeah, it is kind of difficult, because we don't exist in a vacuum. So if there's one business that gives more vacation to the workers, or maybe is paying more money, and it, let's say, affects their ability to make profit, eventually the cutthroat companies might be able to outcompete them. Obviously, in a perfect world, there's there's a way to do it. At least, like, the audience would support you and be willing to pay higher prices just to know that it's properly done. So
a lot of these systems are based in fear too. I mean, we had unlimited vacation in my companies in New York, and I mean, people didn't take advantage, and people, it's going to attract a different level of people. It's going to allow people to hopefully, not burn out and to refresh themselves. And so, I mean, I think it's just my different way of thinking. I think if we're just constantly thinking, how do we squeeze as much out of someone in a short period of time, and use fear of like losing their job and this and that to motivate them, you're going to attract one type of employee and have a type of culture. And what if you did it a different way? What if you really inspired people and treated them well, and and brought that into the world? What people might that attract, and what shifts might that bring?
You also mentioned people working for soft drink companies, and I remember this funny thing that I've seen a lot of Colombian shamans specifically really love using Pepsi bottles or Coca-Cola bottles for transporting their ayahuasca. So the soft drink companies serve the positive purpose as well. At the end of the day, you mentioned children. I know you're a father yourself, so how do you think you're fathering your children different? I mean, you have one kid, right?
Yeah, one daughter. She's turned 2.
How do you father your daughter differently now that you're in this line of work? Anything you can share?
Yeah, I mean, it probably would be completely different than if I was in New York 10 years ago. I mean, I think one, just living in Costa Rica, the life that, just seeing how important it is for her to be outside. And I'm fortunate to have a pretty flexible schedule. I'm with her like hours outside every morning before I start my work day, and then, even later in the day. And so she gets to be outside a ton and just really in nature, as children are meant to be. I think they get very programmed very early on. And that's very outside of, how we're born into this world and what we're meant to experience and live in. So, that's one aspect. I think another aspect, I mean, I feel like I've always been a fairly loving person, but I'm much better at showing it. I have a lot of affection, really able to show her a great deal of love, music and dance and things like that I've become more expressive with through my journey are bigger parts of her life as well. I'm very, I would say extremely patient, or much more patient than I would have been in my New York days for sure. And, really hard to trigger. So, I'm not reactive in any way to her behaviors, and just really can appreciate her and where she's at and really be with her there. So I'd say all those things, definitely we're greatly supported through my path with the medicine, some of the other work that I've done as well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I have something similar, a similar story. I have 3 kids, 4-year-old, 2.5-year-old, and 5 months old. And sometimes I see my kids playing in the pool, and I grew up in a very cold country where nobody ever had a pool, and just the fact that we had to be inside most of the year, so it's a very satisfying.
I grew up in Cleveland, so I can associate with that too. It was very cold.
Yeah, just seeing kids being able to be outside most of the year. I mean, the entire year here pretty much is very satisfying. Another thing, I don't know if you've observed that, or if your daughter interacts with your guests in any shape or form, but we have my older son recently learned how to swim. His name is Adrian, and I did some of the teaching, but he also had like 50 different teachers from all over the world. So the retreat goers, so international team of swimming teachers, and he definitely is behaving very different from a normal 4-year-old. Like, he kind of sees that we're guiding retreats and we greet people. Now he's working as a host for us, so he tells people to take their shoes off when they come into the Maloka, and he kind of like mimics me in like trying to present and be in front of people. And I think that's a very, very interesting childhood to grow up at an ayahuasca retreat. Yeah. So another thing that I wanted to ask you, you mentioned Kabbalah, spiritual practice, and can you tell to people what it is and how it kind of inspired you in your work and understanding of like spirituality?
Yeah. I would say Kabbalah was one of the main entry points I had into spirituality. I began studying it. There's a big center in New York, and I think at the time it was very intellectual for me. It made a lot of sense in my mind. It wasn't until ayahuasca that I really was able to kind of drop things into my heart. But, Kabbalah is a very ancient wisdom that, Einstein and Newton and, a lot of the scientists and a lot of, people really, gained a lot of knowledge about a lot of things from before we had, obviously the internet and, all this information available to us. And, Kabbalah means to receive. So a lot of it is really about how do we give in a way that it feels like receiving. So this beautiful cycle of giving and receiving from our giving, because we take such joy, in that. And there's a lot of different aspects to it. It gets pretty deep. I think some of the key things are really around restrictions. So really not reacting to things, immediately. Most times our initial reactions are not, coming from our highest selves, coming from our hearts or our souls. So just being able to take a step back, and allow. They speak a lot about, the world that we see is really kind of the 1%. We're not seeing this 99%. And something obviously we experience with ayahuasca, we start to see these other worlds and this other things that are present. So really, allows you to understand, the energy and the aspects of the world that are all around us that are not necessarily manifesting in our physical, reality in the moment, and really start to see, from a higher perspective. But yeah, there's a lot of aspects. There's different energies that are available, different times of the year, and different ways to tap into that energy. yeah, it can go pretty deep. But yeah, I find it to be just wisdom that really just connects. Every time I hear it, the principles just really deeply connect to me.
There are lots of ancient practices that really seem to only start making sense after you sit with ayahuasca for the first time. At least for me, What?
They're probably all created through some type of medicine in many cases. A lot of information. So
Yeah, I definitely believe that every culture used to trip on something. Stories of burning DMT bush and stuff like that. There's traces, there's clues left in the books and scriptures. So you describe other worlds and the energies and things like that. So after now working with ayahuasca for a long time, what is your worldview from a point of view of what do you believe happens after we die, or do you believe in karma? Do you believe in fate? Yeah, synchronicities. What is the worldview? Because I'm still forming mine. I've been observing things, but I'm curious to know yours.
yeah, I mean, I feel mine forming and evolving, all the time as well. I think some of the key aspects, for me are really, one, just how much we're in control of our reality, and and really going through that pathway. So I very much feel that, we're choosing from endless different, and endless different paths and choices, in creating our reality. And so, really getting present to the power that we have in choosing and shifting that reality, and how in many ways, the personal aspect of that reality. So not everyone may be kind of living in the same timeline, in the same reality at the same time. So really kind of feeling into that quite a bit. I think, obviously, I don't feel we ever die. I think there's a continual energy, obviously some version of us in this body, we may leave behind, but I think, we have this immortal soul that is continually living and learning and experiencing what it needs to experience, in order to continue to evolve. And, I think each life is presenting us with that and showing us that. And, similar to how, ayahuasca always presents us with the most perfect information and situations. And I think life is doing that as well. It's putting us in those situations where we can, have the opportunity to grow and learn and evolve our souls in the deepest ways. It's really just up to us to choose that, to choose to see those lessons, to choose to not be victims, and choose to kind of, continue to move forward and really believe, connect, believe in what we're, our connection, really understand what we're connected into, what we're here for, and really, follow that with passion.
Yeah, I agree with those things. I've definitely noticed that my fear of death and definitely changed after I started working with the medicine. And I've heard the same story not from people, not from books, but from people right after their ayahuasca experiences, people from different kinds of the world, people that never met each other, describing the same realizations in many different words, but that pretty much describe that we're souls coming to this planet to learn some lessons, and there's something afterwards. So that's
And I think the other lesson I've received from ayahuasca and in general is that, the collectiveness of our one soul, and how we're all fragmented in order to learn. We're all learning different pieces that are bringing, kind of bringing that information back, in supporting the collective. So while we, have this ability to create our own path, it's also, part of this, this collective learning model that we're all kind of feeding it back into.
Yeah, definitely we're all connected, and I've seen different ways ayahuasca can show you that with the different analogies that your subconscious will understand. It's a question that I ask all people that work with ayahuasca specifically. How do you think ayahuasca healing happens? What is the mechanism from your point of view?
I think, I guess from the most practical standpoint, the way I would describe it is it allows you to face fears, face limiting beliefs, face stories, perspectives that either you're afraid to face, or you're not, your subconscious is not allowing you to see your face. And, I think when we're able to kind of see through, see these stories, see these fears, see these limiting beliefs, come up against them and actually face them, that creates a freedom and an expansion on the other side that opens space for other things. When we're living our lives, in fears that are containing us, and with limiting beliefs that are containing us, it's kind of keeping us in one place. And so it's the expansiveness of ayahuasca and this work, really comes from being able to face things that, frankly, in life might take us decades, if at all, to face, and allows us to face them in very short periods of time. There may be obviously some fears, some things that come up, but we're able to do so in a very loving way, the way the medicine is able to show us these things, walk us through some of these experiences, and then allow us to, kind of come out the other side. And, we're not held down by that fear, by that limiting belief, new things open, new perspectives open. And we're able to really connect in with that. And I would say the other big piece, is just how deeply we feel the divinity, the connection to everything, and knowing that, I think is a very big piece of, just having that trust in life, having that trust in ourselves, because we know that there's this broader divinity, this loving energy that's supporting us, and we're not alone. We're never alone. We're not doing this for, it's not all meaningless. There's a reason and a purpose and a connection behind it all.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And you said that you work with a lot of first timers. We do as well. I would say majority of the people that come here are first timers, which is great. Definitely my personal passion to have as many people have this experience. But what are the misconceptions that you encounter? First timers maybe not knowing a lot about ayahuasca, maybe even coming to it for wrong reasons. But what do you have to debunk and explain to people?
Yeah, I think some of the misconceptions, one we kind of talked about earlier, but there's this idea that, hey, the medicine's going to tell me to leave my partner, leave my job, or do this and do that. And, kind of this negative connotation around that. And I think understanding that if that is the case, the medicine is showing you what's at your highest, showing you that there's something greater, something better for you. And just understanding that. So I think that's one thing that I see, can potentially stop people sometimes from the medicine, because they're just, sometimes we just want to be with the pain we know, versus venture into the unknown. The other thing I think a lot comes around purging, and I'm sure it's similar for your retreats, but there's never anyone at the end of a retreat that's like, wow, that purging was so hard. I wish I hadn't done that. It's usually not even a thing, once you get through the journey. But I think a lot of people fear that coming in, just the idea of throwing up in front of others. A lot of people think that maybe that's the whole ceremony and it's going to happen all the time, versus, maybe happens for 15 minutes during some of your ceremonies, or maybe not at all. So yeah, understanding, what the real role of purging. I think it's kind of been used a lot to maybe make people fearful of the medicine and really not understand it from that aspect. What other misconceptions? I think people get caught up sometimes in how challenging, or hard or bad a ceremony might be, and what if they're stuck in something for long periods of time, or they never come out of it. Obviously, imagine as you've experienced, we haven't seen that. People obviously you come out the other end, and we come out better. With the medicine. So, helping people, really understand that there really aren't bad ceremonies. There's challenging ceremonies. There's times when we might go through things. We support people a lot, before and, in our pre-program and before on the journey with surrender and kind of removing some of the resistance, because a lot of times that really triggers some of the more, challenging ceremonies when people are really struggling and gripping on tight to something versus, allowing and being curious about what's coming through. So I think that's another thing that people have some resistance to, early on. And, as I'm sure you've seen, I would say the majority of ceremonies, people may have a really challenging one, but they also have like the most joyous, beautiful experiences of their lives. Oftentimes our third ceremony is a day ceremony, and often that's people's best day of their life, pretty overwhelmingly. And so, there's just so much beauty that can happen in these ceremonies as well, and with the music and in the way that this medicine works. And I think, I don't think many people realize that coming in, just how beautiful and enjoyable these ceremonies may be as well.
Yeah, and the challenging ceremonies are where sometimes people get the best breakthroughs, and as you mentioned about purging, it's people even learn how to love purging. They then expect purging, and then they get upset when they're not purging. It's very hard to explain to a culture that is pathologically afraid of vomiting. It's interesting that you say your last ceremony of the week is the day ceremony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do 2 nights there, and the third is a day ceremony.
It's really interesting because we do 4 ceremonies in the weekend. Also, last ceremony is a day ceremony, and I've only came up with your work, stumbled upon your work recently. So it means that we have independently ended up with a very similar format, because I tried 5 ceremonies in 1 week, 3-night ceremonies, 2-day ceremonies, 2-night ceremonies, 2-day ceremonies. I tried everything and ended up with last ceremony being the day ceremony. And it's very similar stories with like best day of my life, best week of my life. So I would assume that Ayahuasca showed us both the same format. Do you still drink ayahuasca yourself, and how often do you drink?
Yeah, I do. Right now I'm on all our journeys. So we do about 5 journeys a year, and I'm drinking, we do 3 ceremonies at each of those. I'm drinking for those. I just did a dieta a couple weeks ago. Mainly at our journeys, I try to sit at least once or twice a year on my own as well. It's been just more challenging with a young daughter, so that's been my priority. But yeah, I think it's important to stay connected into the medicine. Obviously, it's a little bit different work when I'm on our journeys. Although, I'm always learning, being shown beautiful things, and also able to be in service, and really enjoy that aspect of it as well. I find a lot of my lessons come between ceremonies, between journeys. Get beautiful things in ceremony. And, I think just doing this work, a lot of the lessons come in at various different times. And so just kind of continually, following that path and sitting with the medicine in that way.
And I'll ask you a question that I've been asked myself. It's like, well, if you're already done the ayahuasca, and a lot of people that never drank it before, they assume that you do it once and it forever changes your life and you're happily ever after. So it's like, they ask like, why do you still keep drinking? What is that what are you after? Aren't you like happy already? What would you say to that?
But it's different for everyone. I mean, I think there are people that come out of retreats and they're good. Either forever or for a while. I mean, we really don't recommend people come back very, very quickly. We don't allow people to come back on like back-to-back journeys. And, we really feel like integration is important. And when people come back, we're speaking to them, making sure they integrated what they worked on, what they were, worked on before and are really in a different place coming through. So I do really see the importance of that. As far as myself personally, I mean, if I wasn't in this work, I don't think I'd be sitting with the medicine as much. I do think it would be a part of my life, whether that's yearly or, multiple times a year. But, for me, as I mentioned, I mean, it's always helping me find alignment. So, we always can, even though I think it's, an easier path for me, I've found more and more alignment as my life has gone. There's always things that kind of, take us out or greater aspects of, where we can really get into deeper alignment with ourselves. So that's a big aspect. It kind of always resets me and, helps me get really, really centered and, and focused on what's important. It is an important way for me to like tap into this higher energy. I have personal practices and things I do. And I haven't found a way to really connect in as deeply to that energy. In that way. And it's also just, it really helps me, develop in different ways. Learn to play the handpan and my music and creativity and really helps me, kind of unlock things on that path and show me things that, I may want to continue to learn and grow from. So, I think it's something that, I think is important to be very reverent with, be very conscious of, not just go and sit. And I think if we're kind of tapped into why we're sitting in each ceremony and, really honor the medicine, there's a lot she can continue to show us.
Yeah, I think if you drink too often as well, the medicine itself will tell you, like, it happened to me once, like, why are you back so soon and you haven't done the homework? So it's like, and give you a bad trip or a very difficult experience. Brandon, thank you so much for sharing. I think it was really interesting to ask you those questions and kind of see how you view this work. Where can people learn more about you and your the events that you create and connect to you?
Yeah, it was great speaking with you as well, and always good speaking to others that are really doing this work from the heart. For us, I mean, the main place is oneheart.com. It's the number one and then HEART.com. And that has a list of our different retreat dates. We do about 5 a year. We have 5 coming up in 2025, including New Year's, which are starting in a few days. And on Instagram, One Heart Journeys, I'm Brandon E or Brand One at Brand One, and at One Heart Journeys on Instagram. Would probably be the best ways to follow us. And there's a lot of information on our websites, different podcasts, different, a lot of our reviews, a lot of really good information. People would like it.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for this episode. Guys, thank you for listening. As always, we do the host, Sam Believ. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in the next one. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to support us and psychedelic renaissance at large, please follow us and leave us a like wherever it is you're listening. Share this episode with someone who will benefit from this information. Nothing in this podcast is intended as medical advice, and it is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This episode is sponsored by Lawira Ayahuasca Retreat. At Lawira, we combine affordability, accessibility, and authenticity. Lawira, connect, heal, grow. Guys, I'm looking forward to hosting you.
Con la vida te la baila, cura con la guaira, limpia, taita, vibrando.